Meet Gu, a gamer so obsessed with Tower of Trials that while others are still stuck on the first level, he has already beaten the game so many times he's seen every single ending. He's the one player in the whole world who has reached level 100, the top spot with no one else to beat. But the instant he finishes the game, reality shifts and the world of Tower of Trials steps right into his life. The skills, monsters, and systems from the game have spilled right into our daily lives. For Gu, who knew every secret and ruled everything perfectly, Truckin's sudden hello wiped that world away, leaving him stuck in a 10-year coma forever. As he wakes up to a world where his parents are on missions and dungeons are treated like a normal job, a system message pops up asking if he's ready to begin his tutorial. Not long after my guy wakes up from his 10-year sleep, he tries to go back to life at home, but things have changed in a way he never expected. He soaks up all he can about this new world that has merged with the video game. Nowadays, duels and raids happen all around us. Dungeons must be cleared, and the Tower of Trials has become a real building. So after 3 years of this strange mix, people have learned to live side by side in this new world. A low-ranking scroll could only give you a D rank, but most of the rewards turn out to be nothing but junk. The better scrolls could get you to S rank, but with this one, the best you can hope for is AD, and I'm not talking about his package. GU is desperate for anything that works, even an E rank, so he grabs the summoning scroll and tears it open with hope in his heart. Gu's face shows he's thrilled to finally see a real summon up close, but then a sudden burst of blue lightning shocks him with fear. Gu stares in shock at the torn scroll on the ground as the system announces he has summoned an X-rank wind fairy, something truly extraordinary. Gu stands frozen, wondering if this is really supposed to happen, while the wind fairy stares back in shock before realizing her own summoning has truly amazed her. She's absolutely thrilled and swooning because someone finally managed to call her after so long. Ju is baffled at first and summons never talk back, but then it hits him and he wonders if she could be Ramba. The question throws her off, so she quickly denies it, claiming she's just a wind fairy. But as she floats there, she slowly remembers that only one person ever called her that, Gu God. In that moment, she finally realizes who he is, the beloved Gu God she misses so much, tears streaming down her flushed face as she clings to him and cries out how long she's waited. A heartfelt reunion that reveals to our hero why they summoned an X-rank to begin with. Since in the game this wind fairy could evolve into a powerful support that boosts attack speed thanks to the hidden mechanics they exploited back when they spent so much time together and gave her the nickname Ramba. At the same time, he still can't believe that this bug is still in the game today, even though it was fixed way back in the first year of Battle of Summons. Gu checks the official records and remembers how they said the exploit was fixed, and he still feels the sting of his own frustration because she was deleted even though he had poured so much effort into her. He studies her data and finds the wind fairy is under a strange quarantine that doesn't make sense. So he pushes her aside to figure out a theory while she cries about being trapped in a cage, begging him not to leave her again until he suddenly asks what caused the quarantine, which startles her and brings on a sharp headache that blocks her from remembering the truth. She puts on a fake, cute act and claims someone else sealed her memories. But Gu isn't fooled and tells her to just say what she can remember. Ramba admits she can't say much, but confirms she was held alone in isolation, a secret only Jinnu can sense when he realizes there are other hidden summons like her waiting in the shadows. Ramba confirms it, even though she's never met them because they were kept apart, and she guesses there are at least 10 of them in this quarantine, which makes Jinnu think right away. His mind arrives at a shivering truth. After scrubbing 10 of his summon helpers as glitches, he wonders if turning them into top-tier legends might bring them back, a prospect that makes Ramba simply thrilled to see her return through the ancient scroll. Jinnu thinks his special scrolls might be the only thing X-rank summons listen to, making him the sole person in the world able to pull them so easily, and he guesses this unique gift was a secret prize for finishing the 100th floor on his last try. To check his idea, he tears open another scroll and prays for another X-rank, but a useless gorilla pops out instead, proving that luck still rules the results, so he keeps farming scrolls hoping to gather enough X-ranks to reclaim his lost power. Gu turns to Ramba and tells her to stop calling him Jinigo because the name sounds silly. The most pressing thing is that his name is already famous, and such attention would only invite trouble. Right now, he's clueless and unready, because the second people spot him grabbing X-ranks, they'll hunt him down like he's a wanted criminal, and then suddenly, the ground starts shaking. As the system readies to push him forward, his summons panic at the sudden first challenge, a simple beginner dungeon meant just to get him started. Ju feels a knot of fear tighten in his stomach because, even though he's cleared thousands of dungeons like a pro in the game, this is real life and feels completely different, So he takes a deep breath to admit he's scared but tells himself he's just doing a tutorial and won't be fighting directly. With that comfort, he takes a step forward as the system guides him toward the exit. Once Jinu steps inside, he's a little surprised by what he sees. The air is far spookier than he thought, and stepping into the dungeon marks the beginning. After finishing the tutorial, the system shows you that dungeon fights are team battles where each side can bring up to 5 summons. Since he already has Wind Fairy and Gorilla, the system asks him to put them into their slots. Jinu thinks the safest move is to bring 5 summons, since coming in with just 2 is risky, but still possible. After all, he has faced unfair fights thousands of times before. Jinu, who knew exactly how everything worked, chose yes, and called his summoned helpers to his side. With both monsters ready to fight, it's time to face the enemy, and a low growl instantly makes him feel nervous. The opponent is a gray wolf, and my goal is simple: destroy to get out. So first I rate it as an F-class monster before a shield forms a honeycomb-like barrier around me, just like in the game. But the truth is, the danger is much greater, because once the shield shatters, one hit means instant death with no second chances, sending you straight to the shadows. The wolf's scary presence still feels off, even when he just means what he says. Zhu launches his gorilla like a rocket, but the fool just stands there roaring while the wolf even hesitates. So Gu feels embarrassed and quickly tells the fairy to take over. Ramba channels her wind power to quicken the gorilla's strikes, turning its next attack into a sudden, explosive burst of speed. Gu is happy with the result, but a huge gray wolf charges at him, making Gu worry because his gorilla might not be big enough to win this serious fight. The fight starts when the wolf jumps first, biting the gorilla and knocking it down so fast that Gu is overwhelmed. So he screams for the fairy to act, but she is already giving her all. With one more burst of power, the gorilla rushes ahead and smashes a hard fist right into the wolf's throat, sending it flying backward for several feet. One last time, Ramba pours all her energy into the fight, pushing the gorilla to its breaking point. Empowered, the gorilla leaps and smashes down with a devastating blow that tears into the wolf's body, then rains relentless punches to keep the monster down, and when it finally stops, Gu and the fairy watch nervously as Gorilla Boy stands victorious, having finally eliminated the threat. It even lets out a loud roar of joy when it celebrates. After surviving his first dungeon, our hero finally feels the relief of victory and is rewarded with 2 strength runes. Next, the story moves to the city where Jinu's sister, Ajin, is making a fortune by diving into low-level dungeons to hunt for rare runes she sells to players, a skill she picked up 3 years ago after their family struggled following Gu's disappearance. But she managed to secure a lucky C-class Shadow Elf summon that lets her farm these treasures safely and easily. Ying glanced at her phone and was startled to find her brother calling from nowhere. She wonders if he's been released, but he instantly snaps back at her by calling her a rune traitor right in her face. She gets annoyed because the comment makes her job sound small, so she snaps back and tells him to call her a farming player right away. Our boy decides to play along and asks her where the synthesis center is. Ajin says the player zone is exactly where it should be, a special area created after the Tower of Trials appeared in our world to keep game activities safe and separate. Inside, the synthesis and enhancement centers are built right next to the tower, and in the next scene, Ajin sits across from her brother at a table to explain that real places like Jamsil and Hyundai have turned into towering tests. For now, Korea holds only those 2, but the player zone he seeks sits right around them. Gina sees the wisdom of building player areas near the towers, while Ajin nervously wonders about his own rank, admitting he only got common E and F summons just to hear her excited gasp over the rare drop rates. Our boy keeps things casual, hiding the fact that he hit the jackpot. Yet he asks for her help to get into the system fast and offers her some pocket money, even though she already makes way more than him. Teasing her, he jokes that fate might make him the world's greatest player, but Ajin laughs him off, thinking legends like Rachel or Zenus are just untouchable gods, while Jinu eagerly accepts the dare and asks her to show him the player zone so he can see it for himself. As they walk, Ajin reveals he called a wind fairy, a creature she's never seen before, but when she asks to see it, he refuses, which upsets her because they are supposed to be siblings. Janu asks her to show her summon first, and Ajin confidently agrees, telling him not to be too shocked. He wonders what summon makes her so bold, only to see his face go flat when he learns it's a C-rank shadow elf, which he thinks is useless trash while she treats it like a top-tier hero. He politely greets the elf and even asks if it can speak Korean or say hello, but both Ajin and the summon stare at him like he's lost it. Ezen is baffled by her brother's weird actions, but he's actually just checking if his summons can talk, and since this one can't, he uses her silence to remind her that summons aren't supposed to speak after dealing with Ramba. Now it's his turn to show off his summon, but he just ghosts her and flat out refuses. Jun feels tricked by tech support, calls Jinu a scumbag, chases him away to hide from the talking Ramba, and then Jinu steps into the player zone, which feels like stepping into a whole new world. Now that corporations have torn down everything to build towers, the jam cell area feels like a whole new place, and honestly, that makes sense. Nobody wants a fun fair right next to a tower of danger. Yet Gino finds a scary idea totally thrilling. Aino warns her clueless brother that dungeons are too dangerous for play, but Gino can't stop himself from getting excited seeing the real-life sights he only ever knew from a game. He quickly finds a trading spot where players swap things like scrolls and runes. It takes him back to the days in the game when he used to spend time with his wealthy whale friend. Aino also points toward the information desk, telling him to stop by whenever he needs help beyond the basics. Since he's new, she suggests he join an academy near the player base, but Jinu is sure he can handle it on his own in the zone and tells Ajin to go home while he stays behind to keep training. She notices he's changed since getting out of the hospital, acting almost like a stranger, but she tells herself he's just working hard in his own way and keeps an eye on him when things get tricky. After saying their final goodbyes, Jinu slips away to a quiet corner where no one is watching. He calls for Ramba, who bursts into the room shouting with joy. Jinu quickly silences the confused fairy, insisting she stay quiet because talking aloud in the real world would draw dangerous attention, so she's only allowed to speak inside the dungeons. With that done, Ju turns his attention to his next goal, making money to fund his dungeon raids. He wobbles on his feet, finally admitting he has absolutely zero money, just like most real-life gamers. When reality hits him hard, and he sees he only has 121 to his name, the idea of returning to part-time jobs makes him miserable. Though others would say he should ask his parents for help, he says no. His mother already jugs 3 jobs just to keep the family afloat, so asking her for cash would feel like ignoring all the hard work she puts in. Realizing he's no good for now, he decides to start over from the very beginning. Gu became unbeatable not by spending a dime, but by proving that anyone can reach the very top just by playing for free, which sounds almost impossible. That hopeful mindset fuels his belief he can rise from nothing, and then his eyes go wide with shock as he spots a sudden transfer of 500,000 points. He is stunned when he checks the source and finds it's his mother, who sent him the money knowing he'd never asked for it himself. The gesture crushes him because it comes from the very woman who cared for him while he lay in a coma for 3 years, enduring every hard battle with a heart that defines what true selflessness is. Jinu wipes away his tears, grateful for her kindness, and vows to work hard to make his family proud no matter what. 3 years gone won't stop him. He's determined to make every second count as he rises again and gathers what he needs for those dungeon raids. That determination pushes him to buy 3 more summoning scrolls. His main goal right now is to put together a solid team. He grabs a wobbly slime blob and a horned butterfly, and they're both actually Frank's creations. But his luck finally turns with a 3rd summon, bringing forth an E-rank poison lizard that is already a great win since it happened twice in just 5 tries. Even though this lizard has decent skills, absolutely hates its slimy form, and looks so ugly you'd say only a mother could love it. So Goose sets his new team to work raiding more dungeons to help them grow stronger. The game is all about farming, hunting, and opening scrolls, and Jinu is more than ready to get to work. If he gets all his X-rank summons back, he'll be strong enough to smash through anything that tries to stop him. Now that everything is ready, he's set to gather the last X ranks and finally get to work. Jinu hunts down the hidden dungeon. In the game, it was easy because all he had to do was tap a spot. Now he's so stunned by how the real system actually works that he jumps in place, startling himself and everyone else, because he just learned that summoning a creature isn't enough to get into a dungeon. Gates to dangerous dungeons pop up everywhere in the country, where difficulty is judged by how much energy they let out, but even the easiest ones stay locked to anyone who isn't officially registered. Our boy grumbles because he's the unluckiest kid around, and waking up just after that new rule started makes his bad streak feel even worse. With his tiny fairy as his only comfort, she is the one holding him up. As Gu feels a bit better and pats her head, his sister suddenly calls. Ian asks when he'll be back for dinner, and she tells him to just eat by himself. He then asks how players sign up, which she had conveniently forgotten to tell him. Jinna knows she didn't mention it, but the new rules came too late after so many died in the dungeons, leaving agents hovering at every gate to stop the chaos from spreading. Gino sees how painfully slow and boring the process is, and it starts to make him wonder if it's all just a trick to keep players under control. If everyone started hunting for riches like players chasing the ball, the whole game would fall apart. On top of that, there's a ranking system showing players locally and globally, and Korea is ranked so low it doesn't even show up on the international board. Jin feels let down, wishing her brother, The legendary player, known as Gu God, was there to see how high she could really rank. The call ends, and Gu rests for the day, only to find food already waiting for him the next morning at home. Gina is getting ready to head out at 6 a.m. His mom urges him to eat a rice ball, but he stubbornly insists he's okay. He hurriedly puts on his shoes, apologizes to his parents for showing them his worst side, and thanks them sincerely for everything they've done, leaving his father flustered and his mother worried while the government tightens safety rules after countless deaths caused by reckless players. Since he was a gaming addict himself for 10 years and isn't proud of it, he can't say much. So when he arrives at the reception to hand his form, he nervously asks how many people actually passed the test. He grumbles about the final test with 1,000 people waiting behind him, but he knows that if he can't pass something so simple, what's the point of being one of the 5 emperors? Next, the scene shifts to a new place. Park Chong from HQ is upset with the weak talent until the building is suddenly attacked by a giant orc seeking revenge for his slain brothers, forcing Chong to summon his own fiery allies while everyone panics, and he realizes he's been pulled into something much bigger than expected. As the crowd panics, they all turn to Chong, hoping he can save them. Jinwoo feels the tension of a gang fight and spots the man in the sharp suit, knowing he hates Jinwoo with a burning anger. He is shocked to find that even real-world criminals now use powerful summons. Chong screams for an emergency and tells everyone to bring up their shields. While Jinwoo goes along with it, Ramba nearly opens her mouth again until he hushes her to keep quiet in public, and then an orc charges in to start the fight. Chang's glowing butterfly shoots down tiny space rocks, yet the big orc takes every hit with a grin and gets angrier. Chong is being pushed back, and Gu sees things are worse than he thought, so even though he just wanted to watch, he now has to choose whether to step in and get caught up in the fight. As the orc swings its axe down on one of Chong's summons, Jinwoo steps forward while Chong tries to keep him back, but Jinwoo analyzes the fight and spots a big mistake. The orc wears a magical shield that sparks to life only at certain moments, so you must wait for the right second or your fire attacks won't even hurt him. Chong watches closely, sees the light glow on the orc, and quickly changes his plan to use it. He tells his flame turtle to ready another fire spell and releases it just as it needs to go, watching with satisfaction as the attack hits its mark perfectly. Chong cheers as the enemy's weakness is revealed, and his wood-type summon wipes out their support, leaving the attacker defenseless. Then the flame turtle and flame butterfly join their attacks to crush the orc, clearing away all the enemy monsters and shattering the attacker's shield. Now trapped in a corner, the man tries to surrender and brace himself for what comes next, but Vine Monster snaps him up and holds him tight, completely ignoring his pleas. Chong freezes the crying criminal in his tracks, snaps his fingers, and turns him into dust, ending the fight before a single plea can be heard. The crowd roars in celebration as they shout out praises for Chang's win. But Jinwoo is terrified, while everyone else acts completely numb to the fact that someone just died right in front of them. In that instant, he realizes the world he knew is already gone, and surviving it will take far more guts than he ever expected. Chong walks up to Ju to thank him sincerely for his earlier help, which let him take out the terrorist, and he gladly offers a reward in return. Gu takes this chance to admit he hasn't signed up at headquarters yet, leaving the man completely shocked since this kid just gave him amazing fighting tips despite being a total beginner. Chong checks Jinwoo's ID, promises a reward for a quick background check, and while Jinwoo leaves, Chong quietly calls a friend to dig deep into Gu's past. Next, the boy gives the fairy a sweet treat for keeping quiet, and she happily munches it up. Although Gu finds it easy to keep her happy with such a simple gift, the weight of saving everyone inside that building by stepping in when he didn't plan to, along with the fact that the world has changed and he hasn't fully adjusted yet, keeps him troubled. Ju knows he must keep climbing by hunting tougher foes, and those summoning scrolls are his only hope to bring back the last X-rank beasts. He must choose between the drill instructor and the explosion dragon mage. But the good news is that he can still find both of them in scrolls meant for beginners. Remembering this, Jinwoo makes his next move, and soon after, Chong's report arrives to leave him completely stunned. The new kid spent 3 years in hospital, which is why he never got registered, and that fits perfectly with the time when the world started changing. But what he still couldn't figure out was how fast the kid rushed to sign up just after getting out of the hospital. Chong stared at the file again and couldn't believe his eyes, wondering if what he was seeing was actually real. Trying to keep his cool, he personally calls the examiner to swap them out so he can watch the test himself. Jinwoo's strange ability to adapt feels like a miracle to Chong, while the overwhelmed introvert Gu stays calm and quiet despite the noisy crowd of trainees waiting their turn. Soon, the examiner arrives, and it's Park Chang-wook, and the test begins with writing. Later, when Ju finally faces Chong, The man says he didn't think he'd see Ju so soon, but Chang just calls it fate and asks how his training is going, while Jinwoo remembers the meeting very differently. Earlier in the lecture, he sat bored next to Ramba while they practiced an old trick he thought was boring in the moment. Chang pulls up the reward app to ask one last question before moving on. The question catches Jinwoo off guard, leaving him stunned to learn that Gamer is now the official title for former Battle of Summons players, making up about 70% of the top-ranked ones. Seeing Jinwoo chat about game buffs like a veteran instantly made Chang suspicious. So when Jinwoo confirmed it and quickly claimed only 1 year of experience instead of 10, Chang's face dropped in surprise. That alone leaves Chang stunned, since most students can't even last half a year, so hearing someone make it a full year makes him visibly impressed, while Jinwoo is just confused by his reaction. Chang lays out the rewards, leaving Jinwoo with 2 choices to make. You can either sign up right now to become a boss or grab a 5 million cash prize. Chang thinks he'll pick the better registration option, but Ju grabs the cash right away. The decision shocks everyone because turning down both registration and a job offer makes no sense to CH. But Ju doesn't care since he believes he can register on his own, refuses to join HQ, and is only focused on his summons. Later in the player's zone, a staff member spots him and tells him that to get a good grade, he needs to rush through the Tuesday dungeon. Chong watches from a distance, still shocked by the rejection. What surprised everyone even more was Jinwoo's exam paper, which was full of runes and summoning spells, so clever that the examiners were truly impressed, and some even think he might soon become a legendary ranker. Once the explanations are done, Jinwoo steps through the gate, a shield appearing around him as the dungeon begins. The air is thick with dangerous slime monsters, so your only job is to kill them and get out before it's too late. Juno slaps a power-up on Ramba that makes his summoned friends, especially the gorilla, swing their fists much faster. The dungeon is a confusing maze where most players get lost, but Ju knows the fastest way straight to the boss, only to see red warning screens pop up because the boss has already appeared sooner than anyone expected. A huge slime stands tall above him. Jinwoo didn't even think twice before sending Gorilla forward, who leaped and crashed down with Ramba's buff, giving him a crushing force that completely blew the slime apart in one hit. Next comes a wall of punches that turn the monster into a puddle, making even old foes look scary under this new strength. Jinwoo's excitement grows as he sees just how powerful his summoned friends can become. Before you know it, the boss is down and the dungeon is cleared in just 5 minutes. Even though Ju is used to blasting through dungeons in under a minute, his new speed is so fast, it just broke the Korean record and unlocked a special achievement. Jinwoo is shocked to receive 3 advanced summoning scrolls and 2 abrasives as a reward, yet he's even more baffled that his record-breaking time is still just 5 minutes while headquarters scrambles to figure out who actually set the new mark, quickly ruling out Kong and realizing it must be someone unknown. Jinwoo, a name not even on the official list, has just broken the #1 record, sparking an immediate meeting where everyone is stunned and Chong is so excited he practically convinces them to sign the kid right away to save the nation, noting that while the old Korean record stood at 6 minutes, Rachel's new global time of 2.5 minutes proves the stakes are incredibly high. And now, on his very first try, Jinwoo has completely broken the Korean record. Because of that, Chong thinks a normal checkup is useless and decides this person needs special care, while Jinwoo feels a bit let down by just how average his own record turns out to be. Chong suddenly dashes over, shouting his name with wild excitement and cheering on his great work. He wonders how Jinwoo pulled it off, but Gu just shrugs and offers no explanation, while the onlookers think he's being way too humble. Chong slides the official player license card across the table into his hands. Jinwoo is shocked that he got signed up so easily without a real test, but Chong still wonders how Jinwoo did it. Ju pauses because sharing the truth could flip his life upside down, turning his fame and fortune into a trap where he becomes a target or loses his freedom to others. Since the risk is too high, he sidesteps the question and instead yells at Chong for pushing too far. Chong takes the rejection to heart, knowing it's a personal move, yet he also sees how vital Ju is for Korea, and through this exchange, Ju realizes Chong isn't a villain after all because he truly listens and keeps his promises. That thought made him wonder if timing the country system right could actually help him grow faster. He asks to move somewhere quiet, and then Chong begs him to help the headquarters, especially since he spent 3 years in a coma. Chong apologizes once more for the background check, warning that unskilled workers often turn out to be criminals or gang members. Jinwoo felt a bit annoyed and decided there was no use in looking into it further. Chong nods in agreement, but spots something strange. While everyone else gets nervous at the thought of national support, Jinwoo stays perfectly calm, acting like he knows exactly what he's worth. As Jinwoo casually sipped his coffee, he asked the country what it could offer him. Chan hurriedly says he'll cooperate fully, but his answer feels pretty unclear. He explains that since his job as an assemblyman depends on winning votes, he's using these strong results to gain more power like any politician trying to get an advantage. He asks Ju to back him up so he can help her in return, but Gu feels the deal is too weak since there's no clear reward for him. So he agrees only if they try for 1 month, while he works on getting stronger and decides later if staying in the partnership is worth it. Chong sees this as a daring trial partnership, the only shot he has to keep Jinu safe. With a firm handshake, both sides agreed to the temporary deal. Ju adds another condition, insisting that news of his records stay quiet to keep him safe from the whole country. Chong first told HQ they could handle his safety, but after seeing how easily Ju took down the dungeon, he realized even that might not be enough. So he agreed to the terms while admitting they couldn't hide every single secret. So they go their separate ways right there. Ju leaves feeling good, quickly checks his rewards for those special summoning scrolls, and decides not to gamble them away even though they look tempting. Selling them feels like the smarter move. So he thinks back to the player web system where all the data and trading listings are kept. Once he finished setting it up and gave it a quick check, he was completely stunned. Each top-tier scroll is worth about 3 million wons, meaning he nearly earned 10 million wons from just one dungeon run. Ju soon finds out his money troubles could get a lot worse than he thought, much faster than he expected. He planned to sell his high-grade scrolls to buy back only the low-grade ones he needed most, but when he checked the prices, he was confused to see them listed at 5,001 each even though they were easy to get and many sellers were trying to sell them. Knowing he needed more answers, he calls his sister Ajin again to explain what's going on, and she tells him that the headquarters buys scrolls in huge batches to help rankers, which is why the price stays at 5.01. But she adds that the system might change soon since it was set up back in the early days when they needed way more scrolls. That news instantly sparked an idea in Jinu's mind. He hangs up and plans to meet Chong again the next day. Chong beams with joy as she meets him and asks what he needs. Jinu asks for lots of weak scrolls instead of strong ones, which surprises him since most players want the opposite. Jinu asks for as many scrolls as possible, and Chong reassures him that the headquarters prints around 50,000 low-grade ones every day, so stock isn't a problem, while Gu quickly adds that Jinu probably can't resell them anyway since there are already too many for the market to handle. Chong is hooked by Gu's strange new strategy, so he agrees to help, but insists that any secrets Gu shares must be treated as a serious business deal to protect his own reputation. And with that deal struck, he jumps right into explaining how to shave seconds off the records. Usually, being the first to clear a dungeon gives you 3 top-tier scrolls, but you can win them again if you beat someone else's best time. Basically, players can keep breaking the record by just 1 second, which resets the timer and lets them farm rewards again and again, turning time attacks into a way to pile up scrolls. And besides, this helps the entire Korean association because when players get better, the country's overall ranking goes up. Chung admits they've already tried the idea, but since most players haven't figured it out yet, there's still plenty of room to make it work, and then Junu shares another strategy for the Tuesday dungeon he just cleared. Chung leans in with the eager anticipation of a puppy waiting for a treat, hoping to catch the words of a legendary secret skill. Junu reveals that players can clear the dungeon in under 3 minutes, but he insists the price is worth it and raises his ask by adding 50 more high-grade scrolls to the low ones. He's asking for 100 million worth of scrolls, which seems crazy at first, but Junu thinks it's a fair bet since this trick could make billions in both small and big dungeons. Chong nods in agreement, promising to hand over 150 million right away if the info is useful, plus he'll send out 10,000 of the cheaper scrolls every single day. The next night, Chong called his team together for a test that everyone thought would be huge, and he started by bragging that he'd found a way to beat the Tuesday dungeon record thanks to a secret overseas contact, while also jokingly blaming Jinu for helping him find it without knowing it, and telling everyone to keep this secret. The meeting is all about starting time attack tests with a new method using the tough, human-sized poison lizard summon, which most players ignore because it's hard to train, but one special trait makes it worth the effort. Since it eats slimes, it's the ideal Tuesday dungeon boss to help you finish fast. In the next scene, players brag about finishing in just 4 minutes, proving the trick works, and the lizard they once ignored is suddenly cheered as a must-have summon. A few days later, the news about the record breaks out and travels all over the land. Chong realizes Gu is way past being a normal gamer, so he builds a special support team around him with 3 talented members. While Gu stares at his suddenly huge bank account and wonders why he never made money like this before, most excited by the 10,000 summoning scrolls he can now use. Since Chong kept his word, Jinu steps up to keep his end of the bargain. He prepares Ramba for one more try. Water hits the ground, and the wind fairy prays to every god she can think of, begging for an X-rank summon, while she opens one scroll after another. Thousands of summons were revealed, but most were useless, leaving Jiyu exhausted after opening 3,600 scrolls with nothing valuable in hand. The fairy shaked her head and says that hoping to earn an X rank so quickly is just a dream that won't come true. She says she was just incredibly lucky, like rolling a god-tier number on a dice, because even finding 100,000 common scrolls wouldn't promise you this rare X-rank summon. So Gu wonders if she really knows how the system works. She says that while most summons belong to a huge group of hundreds of millions of beings, the rare X-rank ones are completely one-of-a-kind. This shocks Jiyu, but he's mostly just staring at the insane luck of pulling a single X-rank out of hundreds of millions, which feels like winning the lottery. Ramba claims he might be the only one in the world who can call upon X-rank power, but Jinnu just grumbles, knowing the chances are basically zero. She notes that some summon groups are gone forever, yet the odds are still brutal. So Ju briefly thinks about switching to mid-tier scrolls, but finds it brings new problems like high cost and scarcity, leaving him with no choice but to play by the current rules. He unrolls another scroll with Ramba helping him, and 2 weeks go by. Even after flipping through roughly 140,000 scrolls, he still hasn't found a single X-rank one. While getting closer to the player zone to stand on his own, Gu watches his old favorite hotel buffet turn into a new system facility before nervously telling Ramba not to mess up as he upgrades her by sacrificing other summons, boosting her level to 21 and sharpening her mind. Ramba cheers loudly as she grows stronger, while Jinnu doesn't care. After using 140,000 scrolls to hit level 100, the highest level possible, he's sure he'll die before ever reaching the top. As the days go by, Chang keeps checking the reports to see how things are going. With his team finally in place, he turns his full attention to Jinnu, only to discover that Gu spends every single day unrolling scrolls without stopping. Even today, he keeps buying with his 150 million, always hunting for lower prices whenever he can. The Bureau is getting worried about the scrolls, and Chung can't figure out why Gina spent so much on them, but he knows she's hiding something they don't. Because of that, he agrees to the ridiculous offer to sell each scroll for half price, which shocks his subordinate and worries it will cause major problems. But the assemblyman stays calm, convinced the talent they're selling is destined to become a national hero. He knows that by backing Jinnu now, he'll be the one remembered for spotting a winner early, so it's totally worth it. He also asks Byong-jin to keep the deal secret, known only to himself, Jia, and Taiso, while back at Jinnu, who is exhausted from opening thousands of scrolls. The Wind Fairy worries how long this can go on until Yujia, a stunning new teammate, arrives to help. She tells him she's here to talk about the proposal. Jinnu tells him they're giving him half off every scroll he buys, and he is left speechless by the news. On top of that, she also points out an extra 100 million in the budget set aside for his daily support. For Gu, everything suddenly jumps up to a whole new level of luxury. Jia tells him not to spread the news, even though she thinks he wouldn't, and she adds that the deal will make them work better together, which Ju is perfectly fine with. Once she's gone, Jinnu finally gets a true taste of what real help from the assemblyman feels like. Pushed to think hard about summoning that rare dragon mage quickly to honor the trust he was given, he keeps grinding through thousands of trash scrolls with no hope left, knowing he's gone too far to quit. So he starts begging the heavens for that explosive dragon mage to appear. And finally, after what felt like endless agony, the gods of Gacha finally answer. Jinnu and Ramba are stunned into silence when the wild dragon mage finally appears. Jinnu is so moved he's even tearing up, convinced his hard work finally paid off, but he keeps going because he knows that once luck strikes, rare treasures tend to appear again and again. Believing that trick will work, he pulls out another scroll, and to his shock, it casts a spell just as well. The drill instructor steps forward, and Jinnu breaks down into tears of pure joy, finally holding the summons he had been chasing for weeks. This special summon, who isn't a fighter but grows others like crazy, spots Jinnu right away and gives a deep bow. Ramba and the drill instructor seem to know each other from a past life, like they've met before. Then the explosive dragon mage shows up, proving who she is, and Jinnu hears her voice for the first time. Realizing that with the drill instructor's help, her power grows so strong it becomes absolutely unstoppable. Both summons recognize Gu as their master and show true respect, so he calmly tells them to keep quiet in public. But that night at home, Gu is totally drained while his summons chat freely and the drill instructor starts spotting their weaknesses, declaring they are too weak and need hard training. Beginning with the explosive dragon mage who must learn to control her mana better to unlock bigger powers. Then he looks at Ramba, who freezes in fear as his harsh training plan takes shape. He starts her off with an impossible job of swinging a frying pan 5,000 times, and while she begs for help, he has already lost his mind, even as Gio rushes back to HQ to report that the director has cut off their scrolls and is demanding a full search. Shang is puzzled, not understanding why the director would suddenly care about something so small. Gio blames Hizu, Chang's rival, for the trouble, and knows that if the scrolls run out, Jinu's growth will stop too. Chang was fed up, right when he got a surprise call. Jinu says he doesn't need more scrolls, but Chang stays wary of Hizu and plans to deal with him later. While at Guanacon Mountain, Gu puts on a simple tracksuit to study the area for his next dungeon run. In this world, you can find many kinds of dungeons, from simple caves full of loot and tall towers meant to test the strongest heroes, to a dangerous dragon lair that hasn't appeared in reality yet. Though rare stage dungeons usually call for a group, Jiu prefers to face them alone, and after a staff member verifies his license and lets him pass, he steps right into a chaotic mess. A massive fight is happening right now. It's a dungeon where humans are fighting monsters, and it's already a battle of who rules the other. Soldiers struggle to hold back the surging waves of orcs, and for a fleeting second, it feels like a game, but now that everything is real, he can feel the crushing weight of the danger pressing down on him. Before him, the fake battle has turned into a real war, where soldiers scream for healers to keep them alive. The boy keeps his head cool and calls his units to fight the orcs right away. He tells Ramba to speed up the drill instructor's attack, while ordering the explosive dragon mage to provide cover with her fire spells. Right then, he orders his D-ranked Mini Kong to sprint straight at the orc boss, leaving all the chaos behind. He keeps his eyes locked on the boss, because the orc dungeon is so simple that there's nowhere else to look. With the giant orc at the back defeated, victory is ours and the fight is over, while Ramba's buff sends the drill instructor into a frenzy as he mows down orcs like they're just bugs. Watching this, Gu starts to wonder if such crushing power comes from being an X-rank, a small smile spreading as he realizes the fight might end before he even gets warm. Even the soldiers who were fighting hard just a moment ago freeze in shock as powerful friends suddenly show up and turn the battle around. Minong jumps right at the orcs while the Golden Fairy keeps healing, and Ramba just loves teasing the monsters so much they keep throwing their weapons at her. Seeing this, the boy immediately scolds her for messing around, while the explosive dragon mage unleashes her signature fire spell to burn every orc that touches her flames. Soon, their teamwork takes down the boss. A victory message pops up clearing the dungeon, and the summons cheer as they gain experience to level up, while Gu strikes gold with a new summoning scroll and 500,000 in rewards. These rewards push him to head straight for new dungeons, leveling up his summons and earning easy cash, as he plans to finally stop being a broke loser and make it big overnight. While back at headquarters, Jia scolds Assemblyman Chao for his reckless bet. It turns out his anger took over, and now he has to deal with the results. Back when he met Hizu and the director, things got so heated they almost turned into a real fight. The director tried to jump in and break up the fight between Assemblyman Hiu and Chong. Hiu kept insisting he was just giving advice, but Chong knew it sounded more like an insult than any help at all. After mocking Park Chong's lack of national team success, his rival's hidden skills quickly turn their argument into a heated battle. Even though he won't let Hiu look down on him, Park is about to lose his cool, so Hiu suggests a bet on who has the better talent, which Park agrees to without thinking. Hiu then raises the stakes, so the loser must publicly admit defeat and quit their job, adding a penalty of 1 billion. But Park quickly agrees and even offers to write up a contract immediately. As the tale turns back, Jia challenges him on making such a risky move just because of Jiu, admitting the boy is a genius, but warning that he's still just a gamer who might not measure up to the pro ranks. Yet the man stays unperturbed, insisting he fully trusts Jiu and knows the boy will bring huge rewards if given a real chance. Suddenly, an assistant bursts into the room and shouts that they've found the one guy who dared to clear a D-rank dungeon all by himself. It turns out to be none other than Jiu. Hearing those words, the assemblyman stood frozen with his mouth wide open, completely stunned. Jia can't believe how fast the boy is clearing dungeons after just a month, but the assemblyman loves the chance to brag about his own instincts and can't wait to win his silly bet. Back at home, the boy flops onto his bed, staring at his phone screen and giggling at the huge amount of money he's never seen before. After grinding through endless D-rank dungeons, he finally managed to save up a massive 16 million. The intermediate scrolls became his biggest moneymaker, bringing in huge profits that made him kneel in pride and convince himself he might be the chosen one, even though his summons did most of the work. So he decided to split the cash into 3 parts. One for his monthly bills, another to share with his family to make them proud, and finally a special savings account holding 10 million, the same amount that made headlines, strictly for himself. Though he keeps most of his money for himself, Jiu knows that becoming a better player is worth every coin, so he upgrades all his summons past level 30 by giving them powerful runes. It won't be easy, so he keeps grinding dungeons every day, but he wonders if buying a main summon from the black market could speed things up, only for his jaw to drop in shock when he sees how expensive even a C-rank summon is. Even a Thunderbat that looks like it's about to collapse still costs a staggering 20 million, and that isn't even the worst part. The summons for B-ranked heroes come in the hundreds of millions, but if you're looking for an A or S rank, you won't find any at all. He checks his own size, knowing that B-rank summons are as rare as they are powerful. Yet, he barely lets it dampen his spirit. He always knew the day would arrive when he'd have to ask for help from others. Back in the assemblyman's office, his calm face crumbles when he hears thrilling news. A new request has come from the star player, Gu. The instant he hears the name, he turns into an excited kid on sugar, eagerly asking about the request so much that the staff member delivering the message gets seriously scared. The assistant just hands over a list of every summon GU wants to buy, and the total price skyrockets past $1 billion as if it were pocket change, leaving the assemblyman's eyes nearly popping from their heads at such audacity. He chuckles dryly at the thought of the boy getting that much money overnight, but his sarcasm vanishes when his subordinate mentions that Jinnu promised to share secret clues about timed dungeon attacks for every single day of the week, which instantly grabs his full attention. It felt too good to be true, yet he trusted Gu and took the proposal to the director anyway. A few hours later, he storms back into the office, smashing his fist on the desk so hard it looks like he might just knock it over, and everyone knows the meeting went badly because the boss threw away a chance to make them the best in the business. Watching him fume, Jiu quietly wonders if every manager should have that much passion, and when his subordinate asks what happened, the assemblyman explains that the director wants solid proof that Gu cleared the dungeons first. It feels unfair that they ask for money from a player who desperately needs to buy summons to even clear the dungeons. Jibber agrees that walking away would be a massive blunder, so she calmly points out that selling such priceless secrets for just $1 billion is a terrible deal, and with a confident smile, she offers to pay the whole amount herself, reminding Assemblyman Park that she is far more than just a bold employee. She is the Desong family's heir, someone who got the best schooling and kept winning awards her whole life. While everyone else in her family worked in offices, she always preferred to explore dungeons and hunt for players. Right now, the one who captivates her most is Gu, the rookie who turned dungeon clearing from an unknown stranger into a casual pastime. Now that he's offering an exclusive deal, it's the perfect time to get him on her team before anyone else does. Though the assemblyman is tied down now, this deal would let him own all future profits without ever asking for permission. He still pauses and asks her if she really feels okay betting so much money on a player whose future is still unclear. The elegant woman flashes a cheeky grin and asks if he really knows her bank balance, promising that money won't be a problem at all. All she needs is just one chat with the player, and then she knows she'll have him right where she wants him. Later that night, she sat alone by the window of the fancy restaurant. That's when her long-awaited client finally shows up, looking sharp in a perfectly tailored suit, leaving Junoo a bit surprised that the man who just asked for a secret meeting in exchange for a little info agreed so quickly. It's his first time in such a fancy spot that even five-star hotels feel plain by comparison. The line of waiters greeting him at the door makes him feel like a real boss. Just then, a graceful voice speaks to him, leaving him stunned as he finally meets the famous woman he'd only ever seen on his phone. Wondering why she sat all alone, he asked if anyone else would join them. She gives a gentle smile and says it was her who reached out to him, not Mr. Park. Soon, fine dishes are set before him, just as Jia brings the bad news that HQ can't afford the supplies he needs. Park tried his hardest to convince the big bosses, but they kept saying no, no, no. The boy stays calm, admitting it's a shame they can't help, but casually boasts he can climb a number 1 all by himself, only for her to surprise him by sliding a drink across the table and revealing her plan to build an entire management firm just for him. He almost chokes on the words because the offer feels like a deal he can't believe. Taking over the company would mean having no limits on his special profit-making skills, but that is not his real reason for doing it. This is also a perfect chance to make a deal with someone who will pay top dollar for his secret information. Jioa promises the whole Daisong group will back him unconditionally, and within seconds his confidence is melted away as he admits he just can't help but like her, so she praises his talent and says they'll sort out his contract details later. For now, she tells him to accept the summons he ordered, and Jean's jaw drops as she fulfills his request before he even signs, acting like she already knows he won't say no. She gives a smug grin and says he should just see it as a thank you gift. The next morning in the mountains, his little sister frantically searches for him at their usual spot, only to spot a stunning woman walk by who shocks her into silence before she realizes it's Jia, the famous national icon, also looking for him. while the boy nearby is so exhausted from morning drills that he's practically collapsing. Suddenly, they spot someone coming closer. Jinwoo turns and sees Geo climbing the stairs, looking totally unprepared for a workout. He is shocked to see her, but she calmly tells him she's impressed that he's training this hard this early. Along with his summons, he really looks like he's put together a proper group. Then she hands him another gift to show how much she appreciates him. Suddenly, a screen popped up in front of him, telling him that Jay wanted to make a trade. A warning box flashes on the screen, telling him to double-check the deal's terms before saying yes. The system is built to help players look out for each other, but anyone caught scamming gets instantly struck by lightning, forcing everyone to be honest. Right before him, Geo's whole collection of summons appears ready to be moved, and she asks for nothing at all. He hits accept right away, without even thinking twice. And then, with a simple snap of her fingers, all her books belong to him. The moment he bows over and over, he realizes the gift he just received is way better than anything he ever thought he could get. She waves the worry away as nothing serious and pushes them to start on the contract, noting that she's already picked a new name for their business by mixing their last names together. Gina gets the biggest share with 70%, she takes a smaller piece with 25%, and Mr. Park gets the last 5%. The poor man deserves a comfortable retirement someday, but it's not charity since Park will continue supporting them from HQ, while Jeannie raises an eyebrow at the paperwork that she's already handed over to her former assistants who quit on the spot after being offered triple their old salary. Moving forward, he starts to wonder if she really means it when she says she'll give him 70%. She tells him calmly that she isn't being generous, but is making a smart choice because she truly believes in his potential. What she never says aloud is that money isn't her true goal. She really just wants to win Jinwoo over completely. Without even thinking twice, the boy slams his thumb onto the contract, locking the deal in place right as they shake hands. Just then, one of his summons spots movement in the woods before it vanishes into the bushes in an instant. Soon after, terrible shouts ring out from the trees. A moment later, it comes back dragging those two familiar figures like they are nothing more than scraps of meat at a butcher's shop. Gu is totally bewildered as he watches his little sister, Ajin, and asks why she was hiding in the bushes. He puts together her tale and sees that she only followed Jinwoo because she mistook him for a famous idol. So she rushes to say she was just being curious back then. By that time, Jiao was already gone, so Ju pushed harder, insisting that his actions still amounted to stalking. He wonders if she'll just watch from afar after seeing him with Jia. His sister goes quiet once her secret is out, and after a short pause, she finally confesses without any fight. Right after that, she leaps at him and demands to know how he even knows Jiao and how he managed to meet someone like her. Jinwoo tells us his contract says he must bring his family to meet Miss Jia, who is already planning a formal introduction, and right then his sister starts dreaming of meeting her idol with him. Before he can keep going, she stops him again and pushes for the full story. He starts by telling us he used to be a famous gamer who once held the record for beating low-level dungeons faster than anyone else ever could. Because of that, he often went to headquarters, and one day, he ran into Jia by accident. She wonders if this is the exact game he used to play on his phone all the time. Jinwoo panics at the risk of revealing he is the Jew god, so he quickly claims it was just a different game he played for only a year. His sister sees the hint, tells him it still sounds cool even if the game sucked, then teases him by asking if all the time he wasted on it finally paid off. Deep down, Jinwoo knows the family who raised him for 3 years is safe to trust, so he waits until he is strong enough to guard them before sharing all the truth. As Ajin admits, he hid the truth from her. Gu insists he only needed time to explain everything to their parents before revealing it. And though she can't quite believe him, she finally agrees to keep a secret while Ramba struggles in the background until the weight of the dragon mage crushes him and he collapses. While the drill instructor traps the anxious shadow elf, Jinwoo rushes to have Ajin team it up with a shadow wolf, revealing that without the wolf, the summon works at less than 10% capacity, which shocks Jinwoo since she just got this newbie rank summon and is now frantically searching the online catalog to figure out how she managed to get one. Suddenly, her face drops with despair as she points out the impossible 500 million price tag, sarcastically asking how he expects her to save for it over 20 years, only for her brother to calmly promise he'll get it for her in a month, which make her burst out laughing and mock him for acting cool now that he's famous as a gamer. She tells him to leave it alone and vows to save up her own money until she can buy it someday. He just smiles, stands up, and tells her not to cry, even though his words make her more confused, making her wonder if her brother has turned into a stranger while her scared elf snuggles into her lap for comfort. About a week later, outside the weekly dungeons, Gu meets his team and is handed a brand new set of gear, leaving him puzzled since he never asked for it. Jess tells the story of how the U-back company treats information like their most precious treasure, worth more than anything else they own. She tells him they sell high-definition videos of their dungeon runs for a big price, and special gear is just there to catch every single moment of the action. She explains that the gear captures the world in full 3D detail without weighing him down. So once he puts it on and the assistant hits start, it begins recording everything around him like a pair of watchful eyes. Janu felt a bit shy about being in such a strange spot for the first time on a Monday, worried his run wouldn't look good, but Janua promised they'd just cut out the messy bits later. He thanks her and lightly asks if it's okay for him to set a new national record the very second he steps into the dungeon. The news shocks her, so she stares at him in disbelief, then tells him to just chill and play like a gamer. As he steps into the dungeon, he remembers the Korean record is 7 minutes and feels sure he can beat it, especially since this place drops attack runes that link his time directly to his rank. Just like in other games, attack runes are the key to beating bosses, and without them, you simply can't move forward. Besides, the dungeon acts as a survival test, where lasting 30 minutes earns a clear, but beating the final boss, the Lich, ends the run instantly, so top players focus on slaying that boss for the quickest clear. He checks his gear and opens his screen, where he can set up 3 teams ready for battle. Junu has already gotten everything ready, so he quickly loads a preset setup without wasting any time. To start his first team, he calls in the trainer, the combat helper, and Mini Kong. For the second team, he picks the Priest of Radiance and the Golden Fairy to join him. As his screen flashes with news that the Lich's army is charging forward, he knows he has exactly 30 minutes to stand his ground against the pressure. As soon as the timer starts, Mini Kong charges forward like a maniac, ripping through the incoming skeletons without any mercy. Jinu shouts for his people to charge forward and climb the high ground to secure their victory. Hung looks shocked at first, but he obeys the order knowing he's being watched. Ju figured it would take at least 2 minutes to get to the higher spot, so he trusted Mini Kong and Hung to take care of the enemies while he went. Once they get there, he orders his combat aide to take its spot and get ready, remembering how the game version was a long-range sniper with perfect aim, but realizing that in real life, it's so weak it can't even kill a normal monster, even after hours of non-stop attacks. Even so, in this tough Monday dungeon, the aide is the perfect summon to help because the Lich doesn't have much health left, so the player tells the aide to wait and then orders Radiance to bless the whole battlefield. He says the blessing breaks the Lich's dark shield, a barrier that usually stops all attacks from far away. The moment the shield vanishes, he shouts for the combat aide to start shooting right away. While Mini Kong and Hung hold back the rushing crowd, Radiance and Murmury watch over them from the sky. The aide shoots its arrow, dealing a small amount of damage like the other summons, but every single hit chips away at the Lich's life. After taking a few hits, the Lich starts to fade, and Gu realizes that normal runes would have taken too long, which is why most players refuse to bring such help into the dungeon. Right then, a skeleton slips past Kong and lunges at Jinu, but Hung instantly blocks it and strikes it down without a second thought. Ju shows he has a big edge because he can mix his runes with Hung's skills to make the combat aid work its best. With this upgrade, even the strongest Lich crumbles at one fatal blow, stumbling back as its fading strength gives out completely. The screen flashes with the victory that the boss has fallen and the dungeon is conquered in just over 4 minutes. The whole squad lets out a breath of relief as the screen shows they've smashed Korea's record and earned a special badge, while Gia starts to wonder if trying to beat the clock on his very first try was too much. She quietly reminds him that it's only been a week since he got his summons and that they would have backed him up even if he failed, while the assistant grows worried and asks if she truly believes GU can break every single record without exception. He kept talking about how smashing the Tuesday record is cool, but they never figured out what he'd do to get through the rest of the dungeons. He points out that Jinhua isn't the first player in Korea with a year of experience, and he wonders if Jinhua has been completely honest from the very beginning. Jinhua cuts him off and asks if he's worried, and that question instantly softens his face. She turns to him, telling him not to worry about the investment since she's putting her own money in, and promising that even if things go badly, she'll keep their careers safe and sound. On top of that, she promises their pay will stay the same, making them both cry with relief, while Ja quietly reminds herself she has plenty of resources to handle whatever happens next. Even now, she can't stop feeling that Jay is keeping a huge secret hidden deep inside. The way he walked into the dungeon showed right away that the big challenge was nothing to him at all. Right then, the news comes in that the record is officially broken, sending a shockwave through everyone there. News of the shocking 3-minute dungeon record break flies straight to HQ, where they can't believe a low-rank boss has just been crushed by that much time. In a flash, they find out Ju was the one in charge and are left speechless, while Jia's hands shake at the dungeon entrance as she finally realizes just how big a mistake this was. In her mind, the business might just break even, but if things go right, it could grow into something amazing. While deep in the dungeon, our boy takes a moment to look around at the grand sight before him. As he gazes at the swirling portal, he suddenly remembers there's one more thing he must do before he can go through. He turns off the recorder, taps the system panel, and tells himself it's time to grind hard, knowing that once he clears a weekday dungeon, his summons can handle the boring work, so he can just keep collecting rewards. Back in the present, Gu sends the drill instructor away and brings Ramba in to lead the grinding session, which surprises her until he explains he wants Hung to train others, teasingly asking if she'd like to join before freezing her with a memory of her brutal training under the ruthless instructor who pushed her past her limits. Remembering that scary moment, she almost cried and begged him to let her just grind. With that decided, he comes up with a plan to clear all the weekday dungeons first, and then use the auto-battle system to make as much money as possible. This method is even better because the summons keeps getting stronger as they work, making the whole job fast and easy. So after they settle things, he leaves while the wind fairy happily waves goodbye, glad that he's finally free from more pain. The moment he walked through the portal, something strange and surprising was waiting for him. His teammates have rolled out the red carpet and made him feel like a superstar. He tries not to overthink things as he hands over the gear and asks Ja if that is all, and she promises him that they will do everything they can to keep his identity a secret. To her surprise, Jinwoo tells her he doesn't care about that anymore and asks her to focus on protecting his family, explaining that while Korea's gangs are powerful and dangerous, keeping their attention on him is the best way to ensure his safety. Jinwoo hesitates for a moment before saying yes and promising to use everything she has to keep them safe. After a while, our hero goes back to his first dungeon and rides his spotted lizard summon to set another record. This time, he crosses the finish line in nearly 3 minutes, making the run look easy thanks to speed runes on his lizard and wind falcon buffs that make breaking the record effortless. Once Jinwoo stops recording, he steps back into the real world. The next day, he steps into the frozen Wednesday dungeon, a chilling trap that turns players into sluggish crawlers, making every step a hard-fought battle. Shivering from the biting cold, he calls upon his frost cat, wind falcon, titanium golem, horn fairy, and explosive dragon mage, and together they use their special cold-proof powers to make the freezing air bearable. As Gu looks over the battlefield, he sees huge white gorillas running straight at them. He quickly commands the titanium golem to march ahead with its shield raised, while the wind falcon pushes them forward with a burst of speed. The whole team rides atop the golem like a moving fortress, charging forward at full speed even as the rough ground shakes beneath them. As they move forward, Gu fights hard not to vomit after realizing the ride is much rougher than he expected. The snow gorillas throw hard snowballs, but the golem takes them all with no trouble at all. Not only that, but it suddenly springs up as if gravity doesn't hold it back, climbing the mountainside with no trouble at all. Ju signals the dragon mage to get ready and points out what is coming next. The moment they reach the ledge, a warning flashes that the boss is close, so the gorilla Promax lets out a deafening roar while Gu stays calm and tells the horn fairy what to do. She rushes forward to shatter the boss's shield. Then the dragon mage steps in instantly to blast a wave of fire that completely engulfs the enemy. Before you even know it, the dungeon is swept clean in less than 5 minutes. After briefly celebrating a new record, Jiu suddenly doubled over and vomited from motion sickness caused by the thrilling ride. From that day forward, news headlines pour in about a mysterious no-ranker who is shattering national records all across Korea. Soon everyone realizes it's the same guy who cleared the Tuesday dungeon, and his fame shoots straight to the sky. As gossip races through the crowd, making him the center of everything, the director at HQ grows more and more annoyed while reading the news headlines. His secretary tells him it's the same player Assemblyman Park mentioned, the one connected to the rejected deal where Jiu promised secrets for low-rank summons, but Assemblyman Jizu blocked funding until proof was shown, and now the director closes his eyes, knowing the information was real all along. Taking a deep breath, he admits that while Hiu had a valid concern, results are what truly matter in politics. And if they had supported Jiu from the start, their influence would have skyrocketed by now. So frustrated, he shifts the blame onto Hisu, claiming he squandered a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Without a second's thought, the boss tells his secretary to call Gu back immediately since they've proven he isn't a fake and must get him home by any means necessary, even as the game rules finally click into place. Monday and Wednesday, caves drop runes, while Tuesday ones drop abrasives. Thursday dungeons give you skill books instead. Since the special skills here aren't worth the trouble of Sunday dungeons, Jinwoo skips them to rest with his group and earn the same rewards with far less danger. As soon as you step into Thursday dungeons, you're instantly thrown into a boss fight. In this case, the Dirt Golem boss has a defense so tough, it's nearly impossible to break. Most players count on the White Wolves to weaken their shields, but Jinnu breaks them open with sheer power and crushing damage. He turns off the recorder, knowing this dangerous run won't get anyone watching. After all, most players can't get those top-tier summons to copy his moves, so to them it feels less like helpful advice and more like watching someone cheat with unfair powers. Our boy decides to lead the way by first having White Wolves soften the boss's guard before sending in the biggest fighters to deal the final blow. As he climbs aboard his titanium golem to target the Dirt Golem's weak head, he orders his summons to strike there with a ferocity that would make even Thor proud. As the two giants tear at each other in a savage brawl, the drill instructor taps into an old, sharpened power to slice cleanly through the Dirt Golem. While the dragon mage soars high into the sky, she unleashes her fiery spell once more, turning the Dirt Golem into nothing but an empty, lifeless shell. Soon, the system chimes in to say the dungeon is done, cleared out in a little over 5 minutes. As Gu watches the drill instructor, he realizes his powers are deeply broken and likely restricted for a reason, yet he refuses to misuse them. Knowing a trained dragon mage could wipe out even the toughest dungeons in a blink, he did the math and figured that counting the walk-in time, the whole job would only take about 10 seconds. As he waves goodbye to the drill instructor and shouts that he still has time to squeeze in one more dungeon, he returns to the real world where two men in suits stop him to ask if he is Gu. They slide a business card across the table and tell him they're the folks from headquarters. He accepts the card with a shrug and asks what they need this time, while the dark-haired man forces a polite grin and mentions their review of his proposal might make the deal possible, only for Jinnu to calmly raise a hand and shut them down before they can say more. Both men are taken by surprise when the sudden rejection hits them. Ju just smiles, remembering how generous GA is compared to the greedy headquarters, tells the men to contact GA if they want to talk more, and walks away leaving them confused, while the hero stands on a high rooftop, checks his spot, and gets ready for a Friday dungeon that is totally different from the rest. Instead of just calling monsters to fight, you have to walk through the land and clear it yourself. That's why he decided to start training early. So when Gu called his giant blue sky wyvern and climbed on, even though he felt scared with his shield up, he soon closed his eyes tight, then opened them again to find the ride was much more fun than he thought. Feeling bolder, he pushes the wyvern to fly even faster. Sometime later, he lands on a mysterious island and calls his dragon mage and drill instructor, who praises his speed while Gu dismisses it, only for the mage to remind him of the hard days they spent training on wyverns and even with dolphins. When she praises him again, Jinnu blushes and thanks her, leaving the drill instructor feeling strangely disappointed. Jinnu looks out at the sea, announces that it's time to learn how to ride dolphins with them, and tells them that watching the experts like them is the quickest way to get better. A few days later, the doors to the Friday dungeon finally swung open. This dungeon stands out because it drops the most powerful runes of all. Right away, Jiu calls out his Wind Falcon to give him a huge burst of speed. Standing ready, he waits for the countdown to begin. As soon as it starts, he lunges forward and skillfully sidesteps the flying projectiles. He zooms past everything in his path and suddenly chooses a secret way forward. Instead of swimming across, he jumps into the sea and calls his sky dolphin to come to his side. He grips the fin, takes a deep breath, and plunges down under the water to dodge everything floating above. Once the dolphin hits the other side and leaps into the air, Gu quickly calls his wyvern down beneath him to catch him, letting him land gently on its back before they both soar upward into the sky. From that point, he soars past every hurdle with effortless ease, making the planned route look pointless as he glides straight to the finish line. A few seconds pass, and then the system chimes in to say the dungeon is finally done. Jinnu throws his hands up in triumph, knowing he just smashed the South Korean record with a time of barely 2 minutes. So, he gets a special prize for how well he did. He flashes a cool peace sign and rides his wyvern off into the sky, proving another victory. Once we finished the Friday dungeon, we saw that the Saturday dungeon had appeared too, with black smoke rising from the thick forest. Juna guided his summoned beast to flee the roaring fire behind them while the great bird soared away from the forest. With the monsters turned to ash, the system shouted that they were all gone and the dungeon was cleared in just 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Later that night, just as tired birds flew home to roost beneath the Rocky Mountains, the dungeon was swept clean in a matter of minutes. Jinnu and his friends charged at a monster with glowing golden eyes that was spitting blood. As the enemy fell, the system announced a victory over the Grandmaster and told us the dungeon was finally cleared. As Jinnu helped Pokyong up, Ramba, sprawled over Hungyo's head, joked that it had been a good workout, and while Hungo said it was thanks to their training, Pokyong praised Janu for doing so well. Ju wiped the sweat from his brow after the system announced he'd broken the South Korean record with a time of 0 hours 13 minutes and 20 seconds, letting out a sigh of relief that all the low-level dungeons were finally cleared. Looking at the clear time of -0 hours 14 minutes and 50 seconds, he realized he still needed to clear the high-tier dungeons and properly equip runes and skills before he had the stats to even think about the Tower of Trials. So he stared at the memory of himself standing before that towering structure and thought deeply about that goal. Right now, while Ramba talked excitedly with Hungo and Pokryong, Jinu wondered if 2 years would be enough time. While the three friends chattered noisily, he quietly checked his items and wondered what to do with his new rewards. While at Jia's office, she watched the news go wild over Jinu's amazing records, realizing everyone was rightly shocked by his incredible week. She then called for Mr. Kim Ong, who immediately looked up from his computer and answered respectfully, explaining that while the video's final cut was done, he hesitated when she asked about its progress. A coworker asked if something was wrong, so he explained that it wasn't really a problem at all. He grabbed the remote, switched on the big screen, and said he still couldn't believe what he was seeing while editing, then asked if they wanted to take a look. He mentioned that Thursday and Sunday's dungeons were left out because GU asked for it. While on the big screen, Jinu was seen holding tight to a sky dolphin as it swam through the deep water. Janu watched with her eyes wide, her fingers pressed tight against her lips. In one moment, Ju gripped a dolphin's fin as it dove deep with him, and in another, he rode a sky wyvern soaring over the sea, a feat that made Ju gasp in shock. Kim said that selling the footage would just invite people to criticize them for not being able to make it again, but Jo just stared at it and realized it only showed how amazing Ju really was. She then explained their plan. Before selling the footage, they needed to buy up every summon shown in the videos, so Kim quickly agreed that she'd corner the market right away. Xiao nodded in agreement, insisting we squeeze every last bit of profit out of the intel we had. Kim grabbed a tablet and promised to buy everything they could afford, but Jiao told him to just get all of it without worrying about the money, saying she would even take out a loan in her own name if needed. She typed so fast she pictured herself locked into huge loans and total backing, knowing that once those deals were done and the summons bought, it was time to sell the secrets. Jia announced that players registered with the South Korean headquarters would get exclusive access, with Monday through Wednesday and Friday through Saturday videos costing 100 million Korean won, while Thursday and Sunday texts are just 10 million Korean won. She mentioned that guides for daily dungeons would be for sale too, and though Kim nervously sweated and wondered if selling them so cheaply was okay, she explained that the guides were just bait to help sell summons and boost the nation's progress. A coworker asked how much they should list for the cornered summons. Jia stopped talking and said that C-rank summons should cost 200 million, while B-rank ones should go for $1 billion. The employee gasped in shock, wondering how anyone could pay such a huge price for something that cost 10 times less today. Ji explained that word of the wyverns, golems, and falcons would spread fast, causing the demand for those summons to skyrocket. She pictured horned fairies who held all the supplies, meaning buyers would be forced to buy from them. Just as she was finishing up the listing, she knew it was time to collect the rewards from her investment in GU. Now, my boy is treated like a money-making venture. The team behind Geo was left speechless as Kim, with a faint smile, wondered if the screen's shocking 377 billion won in sales was truly real. Shocked employees stared in disbelief, but Jia, though her hands shook, reminded them not to quit so soon and realized that her small purchase had grown so huge thanks to Jean's power before declaring the business plan proven and the real money-making time. The two workers stood frozen, one rummaging for his glasses and the other confused, while she turned to suggest buying a building before they blamed everything on Jiu, and Janu sat alone on a park bench staring at his phone. When he looked at his account showing 54 million Korean won, he grinned with pride at how he'd earned a week's worth of sales by selling top-tier scrolls, while Ramba joked that the cash could buy an endless supply of cream buns. Gu moved and noted that dungeon rewards were good, making Ramba wonder if he had actually pulled next rank. Gu asked if she'd already forgotten once he heard that. He remembered the hard times they faced, like searching through trash heaps and ripping up endless scrolls without finding anything. Back in the present, he dipped his head and admitted that after tens of thousands of tries, nothing had shown up, so like Ramba, he decided it was time to stop looking for new summons and start training the ones he already had. Seeing an opportunity, he decided to sell the extra things he'd collected during his loop run and even thought about asking Jia for help. Clutching his phone, he gazed at the agent's number and recalled her mention of selling runes. He decided to let her take care of the growing pile of things, so he sent a message to see if she was free to meet, followed by another suggesting they check out the empty lot. As he watched her hand money to his mother, He remembered how she had paid his hospital bills, so he decided to offer her a share of the profits. As he read the message, he decided it was finally time to pay her back. Later that day, the story moved to a cafe where Ajin's friends chatted happily about their player boyfriends and all the gifts they got, while Ajin sat alone in the corner, looking sad and quiet. One of Ajin's friends noticed her and asked if she was okay, and when Ajin insisted she was fine, her friend gently reminded her that she could always share her worries if she needed to. Though touched by their concern, Ajin knew she had to keep her situation secret because her brother was the famous player everyone talked about and even started a company to sell dungeon information. Just as the phone rang, it was Jinwoo calling to ask if they could meet. Oh was surprised because she wasn't sure if he was about to tell her something very important. She jumped up to go, but her friend stopped her, reminding her they were supposed to eat dinner together. So she told them her brother had called, leaving them shocked until one of them asked if he had finally woken up from his coma. Ajin proved he had already rushed out. Once she was gone, her friend started talking about how handsome Ajin's brother was. Then the scene shifted to the training ground Jinwoo called home, where his summons fought with everything they had, as if their lives truly depended on it. Hunga watched the training with a sharp, serious eye until Ajin arrived and stood frozen in awe at the sight of Gina's summons battling with fierce, non-stop energy, while Hung trained them, as if he weren't a summon himself. He caught a quick glimpse of Ajin, but decided to let the moment pass without saying anything. Suddenly, a voice spoke from behind her. As she turned around, she noticed Gu had grown much stronger and more muscular than before. She stood frozen in shock, trying to make sense of him since he used to be so thin and weak like most gamers. While she stood there, trying to make sense of what just happened, Gu stepped up to ask if she was okay. After collecting herself, Ajin asked why he had been called and pointed out that their prices had gone way up. She wondered how rare those summons really were and remembered the rumors that they had shown up in the videos sold by Yuba. A sudden thought hit her, and she asked Jinwoo if he was the one who used those summons to set the record, and he didn't say no. Then she asked how he had pulled it off. Jinwoo raised Jia, and Ajin nodded to show he knew her well. He told Ajin that Jia had given him those rare summons, leaving Ajin completely puzzled. She couldn't understand how Jia would part with such a priceless summon, but Jinwoo simply smiled and said they were just gifts. It only made her even more confused about what was really going on between them. Suddenly pulling back to the here and now, Ajin asked why she had called him to meet. Jinwoo then asked if she was still selling runes before dropping a big pile right in front of her. Shocked, Ajin asked how Jinwoo got so many runes, and Jinwoo explained that he found them by clearing dungeons. As she looked them over, Ajin spotted their worth and knew they could fetch a high price if sold. Jinwoo saw how well she knew her stuff and said she looked like an expert. He told her to sell every single rune for him. Ajin thought it over and felt sure she could get the job done. She always had a sharp eye for business, even back when she was young. She then asked about his pay, realizing she had to think about her own future too. Jinwoo asked how much she wanted, and the agent said that 8 to 10% was the usual rate. But Jinwoo shook his head and suggested they split the earnings 20% to her way, which would have made her much richer. Ina stood there, completely shocked by how kind he was. She felt so happy that she thought her brother was the kindest person in the world. Jinwoo promised to give her even more runes later, but warned her to get ready for a lot of work. The Jean felt crushed by the weight of selling everything for such a huge fee, yet suddenly saw it as a massive chance to win big. Her brother's kindness touched her heart so deeply that tears filled her eyes, and for the first time, she truly believed she could become a professional merchant.